My talk this evening is about right action. As I mentioned in communication, my PowerPoint is in French, while my verbal narrative is in English. L'action juste, right action. We talked about engage Buddhism. Why Buddhism must be engaged? That could be a good question for you to share with me. I believe the Buddha was aware of the suffering caused by several events surrounding his life, and that is why he decided to leave the palace in the middle of the night. He left the palace. He said goodbye silently to Yasodhara. He looked at his son for the last time, Rahula, and he took the horse, Kantaka, and with the assistant Chanda, he left. He left everything. He has to be happy, but he left. He abandoned the luxurious thing he had in order to find an answer to the suffering that he was aware of. And he threw himself into the practice of meditation. And then he finally got enlightened and found the way. So one of the paths of the practice is called right action. So we engage because of suffering. Suffering within ourselves, suffering in the world, and we are aware of suffering, and we would like to alleviate the suffering that we feel, that we encounter, that we live through. And we engage in order to do something. The first thing that we engage to do is to take care of ourselves. We practice the 5 mindfulness trainings. We practice mindful consumption in order to keep a healthy body and a healthy mind. But we know that around us, there's still a lot of problems that we must do something, because our happiness depends on other people's happiness. We are not alone in this world. So I move to the next slide on my screen. Thank you. So the Buddha, after getting enlightened, he took a few days to reflect on what he got as an insight. And he spent maybe a week enjoying the place. And then he decided to go back to meet the former friends, the Kodana brothers, in order to share what he had discovered. So the first Dharma talk is also called the Sutra of the Turning the Wheel of the Dharma. Dhammasakkappavattana Sutta. In this first talk that the Buddha gave, there are three important points. The first one is he taught the middle path, which means simply that we should not go into the extremes. On the one side, we do not follow the ascetic practice. We are not inflict pain and into our body. We are not doing this kind of ascetic practice. And on the other side, we are not indulging ourselves into extreme search of pleasure. We try to do our best to stay in the middle with the limitations, with our limit of how we can do things. We do our best. And then he taught the Four Noble Truths that we all know. The cause of suffering exists. Cessation of suffering also exists. And there is a path leading to the cessation of suffering. And the Buddha also taught that we must be engaged into the world. Why should we be engaging? How do we engage? Why do we engage? That are the few questions that we can try to address or to share your thinking, your reflection. Next slide. So here is the 8 Noble Paths. Le chemin des 8 pratiques justes. The path of 8 right practices. I also put underneath, it is also the shield of protection. Practicing the 8 Noble Paths has the capacity to protect us, to protect our safety, to protect our peace, to protect our health. And the right action is part of the 8 Noble Path, which I will go on to a bit in detail in the next slide. And based on the teaching given by Thầy, as in the document I already sent you, there are 4 criteria. First, we have to ask, does this action bring joy, well-being, or bring suffering, well-being, ill-being? In Vietnamese, for my friend tonight, this first criterion, Thầy Nhất Hạnh call that tiêu chuẩn khổ vui. Tiêu chuẩn khổ vui. And the second criterion is we should ask if this action results from our understanding, clear understanding of the interdependence of all things. Sometimes we think we conduct a good action, but we don't know all. Thầy use an example that if you give ginseng to someone who is sick when you visit this person in the hospital, that's a good thing because ginseng was known to boost your health. But if this person suffers from typhoid, this is not a good action. So we don't have complete understanding of the interdependence of all things. So that's why sometimes we are clumsy in our action, although we have good intention. The third one is this action conform with the Buddhist teaching? In Vietnamese, we have the word kế lý. That is important if we want to become a student of the Buddha. This is why the Buddhist teaching comes into action. Is my action conform with the Buddhist tenets? So we have to learn to see what the Buddha taught in order to know if what we do follow his teaching. And is this action appropriate, pertinent to the way how the people live and how people think? We are not doing things that reflect the society of 1,000 years ago, but it has to be appropriate, reflecting the way of life and the thinking of the people today. So in Vietnamese, the word is khế cơ, khế lý, khế cơ. So when we have the four criteria fulfill, our action, we could say that the action could be called right action. And next one is a question we should always put to ourselves. What can I do? Que puis-je faire? What can I do? This is a question that is very important. I remember that kind of question if I go out of my talk here. If you had a chance to view the movie A Few Good Men, and at the end of the movie, when the colonel was receiving the verdict to be guilty, and both the Marines, the soldiers, were free. But because they did not follow the rules, they were kicked out of the Marine. So even if they are not guilty and they are free, that's quite a big verdict that they have to endure. And one of the guys stood up and looked at the other guy and asked, Wayne, what are we going to do? It's a good question. Que puis-je faire? So here, the answer could be we accept what arrives and we do our best to change the situation. We embrace and we find way to resolve it. At the same time, we should not forget to take care of ourselves. That is important, because if we let the problem or what concerns us drag us away to the point that we forget ourselves, that is not helping to solve the problem or to change the situation. So we have to be strong, stable in order to confront the difficulties we encounter. And it's important to have a good group of friends. Very important. Because without friends, we cannot go very far. Through all my life at work or in society, good friends help me to advance in my path, professional path, spiritual path. We must have friends. That I found so important. So we should not become lonely. I am Mr. Lonely. I am Mr. Lonely. C'est la chanson. That's sad to be alone. And don't forget to put full compassion in whatever you decide, in whatever becomes your final action. Compassion is so important. Voila. Thank you for your listening.